Recording. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about more problems with blanks in critical reasoning. Continuation of last time. Basically the deal is when there's a blank in the passage, you should still be able to figure out what the task is pretty readily by looking in the vicinity of the blank. So again, the copyright notice, these are from GMAT Prep, free software, copyright GMAC. They're from the freeware version of GMAC, not the paid questions. Okay, try this. And remember where you find multiple choice answers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and finish this one up pretty soon. For some reason, in the middle of the alphabet, if the game starts with K or M, that's most people who haven't answered yet, except for KN who just put something. Remember, this is a test. I mean, I can't really force you guys to answer, but this is a test on which you have to respond to every question in order. Otherwise, you can't move on to the next question. So, please pick a thing. All right. So let's take a look. The task here is you're trying to give a reason why something might be true. Notice this word alone here is enough to clue you into that. So the task here is like a strengthening question pretty much. You're just giving a reason that supports what has been given as a conclusion. Just makes it a more reasonable conclusion. So we need additional evidence or additional reasons. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what the passage says. Notice there's a word if here, which you need to pay close attention to that, but we'll get there in a sec. So what we have right now is that most of the solar power generators are in the US, but most of those are sent away to European countries. But there's manufacturers in Europe who are going to take away the European market from us. So that's basically the point that's there, right? The new Euro manufacturers are poised to basically steal the European market from American companies. Okay, and then, so the government is trying to push the idea of solar power in the U.S. Now, when you have this statement that starts with if, you got to know how this works. If these initiatives succeed in increasing demand, okay, what this means is that you only consider the situation in which this happens. So you take this as a given. Like, let me give you, as an analogy, I mean, I'm very, very unlikely to pack up and move to Tokyo tomorrow. But if I say something like, if I move to Tokyo tomorrow, I'll stay with my friend so-and-so who lives there. I mean, if I say this, then no matter how likely or unlikely this is, it makes no difference. In other words, even if someone says, like, it's extremely unlikely that I will move to Tokyo, that's not an objection to this. That's the point. It makes no difference at all. Because we're only considering what happens if I do. Similarly, this is taken as a given, so if there's any evidence that I am going to pack up and move to Tokyo tomorrow, that's not going to help whatever I'm saying either, because we're taking this as a given. So notice what this means is we're only considering the situation where demand increases within the United States. So like anything about whether demand will or will not increase is not relevant. So super important there. A couple things that are irrelevant if we see them. Any reason to doubt that U.S. demand will increase. But then also any additional reason to suspect that it will. So this is why, I mean, E is a very popular wrong answer in this question. A lot of people picked E, but this is why E is not right, because it doesn't really make any difference what the current size of the market is. Like, if the market is really big already, but demand increases, then that's fine. And if the market is currently really small and demand increases, then it's also fine. So, because we're only talking about a situation where there is an increase in demand. So, if Americans want more solar power generators, then they say the American solar companies will keep selling stuff. So if you think about what's the missing link here? I mean, the missing link is not will demand go up or where is demand right now. That's not the point. The point is what? Like, what do we not know about the additional demand? I mean, think about the current situation. Think like symmetrically about this. Because right now, Europeans are buying a whole bunch of solar generators from America. So what might happen that we have to worry about if these European companies crop up and start producing this stuff? And what might happen with the American buyers? Because, I mean, you got to think about the only way this argument can go wrong. I mean, if the demand goes up in the U.S., then why is it not perfectly okay just to assume that these companies will sell more stuff? Like, what's the link there? Greater demand. Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? Now that there's going to be these European solar companies, we don't know if Americans are going to start buying from them instead, right? So the way this argument works, the argument is just making this random connection from Americans want to, the increased demand means they're going to buy more. So they're going to buy more solar power generators. And then, so the argument says the American companies that make them are going to maintain revenues. So there's a big, big missing link there, which is that we don't know that they're going to buy from the American companies. Because, yeah, the whole point is that there's these new competitor companies that are not in America. So this is really the only weakness, because again, the demand thing is patched up by the fact that it's if blah, 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 it's all we're worried about. So this is the choice that we want, because this is what keeps us thinking that Americans are going to be buying the American generators. So if you look at the other choices, this is what has been happening over the last several years, but history is not the point here, because I mean, over the last several years, they haven't had competitors, so that's fine. B, the efficiency is not a deal because we're not talking about how good or bad these machines are. These are just, I mean, the article is only about whether people will buy them and from whom, not about how well they work. So, and I mean, still improving. So it's definitely not getting any worse. There's no reason to suspect that this would be a factor that would affect sales. This we've got And then D would be fine, but they're mostly, again, according to the article, this will not really affect the United States companies. So, and as we stated before, E is explicitly ruled out by that, because we have the positive delta, which is really all that we need. So, again, just make sure that you read these statements very carefully. And, all right, Jefferson says, with how much the demand goes up, be a potential issue. So if they did, I mean, if they presented something like that, because the basic way this argument works is that the new buyers in America are going to make up for the gap left over by the Europeans who are buying from their own companies instead of America. So yeah, you have this, basically the number of European buyers is going to decrease and the number of American buyers is going to increase. So if you had a choice that explicitly compared those, like if you said, like the U.S. market is projected only to increase to some size that's some tiny fraction of the Euro market, then yes, that would be a problem. Or if simply you want to substantiate this, if they said that the American market will ultimately become bigger than the European market, that would help you too. But there's nothing